creative nothingness.
My name is Christopher Albright, and this is Panel by Panel, a show in which we read your favorite comic books. Now, today with me, I actually have a legend in indie comics. I don't know if he believes that himself, Mr. Jimmy Gaspero. How are you doing today?
A legend in my own mind. Yeah, but yes. But thank you, Christopher, very much for having me on the show. I am super excited to be here and to tell your listeners, your audience, about Penny and the Yeti, and just talk to you about comics. I had you on my podcast, and I had a great time with you and CJ Hudson. And so, yeah, I'm excited to sit down and chat with you.
I wanted to be a nuisance on your podcast. I try my hardest to be a nuisance. I hope that you don't do that to me because I don't deserve that. But when it comes to podcasting, I do want to ask, you've interviewed how many people now?
I don't know the exact number, but the Cryptid Creator Corner, Comic Book Yeti's Cryptid Creator Corner is the name of the podcast. I am one of the hosts with Byron O'Neill, who's the current editor-in-chief of Comic Book Yeti. We have over 400 episodes, and I am nearing my 250th. I think sometime in the next few weeks will be my 250th episode. So I don't know the exact number, though, because some of those episodes I've had multiple people on. And then in terms of the work that I've done with Comic Book Yeti over the past 5 years, I've done a lot of written interviews. So I haven't totaled the exact number of people I've sat down with, but it's it's somewhere between 250 and 300 or so, probably over 300 different creators between the podcast and written interviews.
Now that's a legend status. Okay, that's a legend status. But I also want to say though, like, out of all these podcasts, of all these people that you've talked to, how much of that has rubbed off on you to get you to this level now? Do you a lot?
A lot of it, honestly. I only started to want to write comics shortly after the pandemic started. I know those two things are kind of linked in my mind, because the first thing I ever wrote where I sat down to try and write a comic book script was for the 2020 Mad Cave talent search. And I saw that on social media and I thought, wow, that, I read a bunch of comics and I thought maybe I could write a story. I always liked telling stories, never thought I would ever do it as a profession or, anything along those lines. But I always liked creative writing. I just never did, officially, I never did a ton of it. I was a psychology major in college, and then I went to law school, and it was a lot of legal writing. But I thought, the Mad Cave talent search. It's like there's no bar to entry other than taking the time to read one of their books and write a story based on that property. I think they wanted like a 10 or so page submission at that point. So I went and I went to the library. I got Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics. I got Bendis's book about writing comics. I got Denny O'Neil has a book very DC centric about writing comics. And I also went back to some of the graphic novels that I had that had scripts as back matter and looked at how they were formatted. And just started trying my hand at it. But once I started doing the podcast in 2021 or 2022, I guess it's been about 4 years, talking to creators, and not just about, I certainly do a ton of, what's your comic book origin story? How did you get started? What's your relationship with comics? And, what book are you here to promote? Let's talk about the comic. But I've also done a lot of how do you make story choices? How do you work with, for a writer, I would ask, how do you work with an artist? For an artist, what choices do you make when you get a script, and why do you why do you set up your panels this way? Like, why do you do it traditionally? Why do you break out of panel borders? Like, asking those types of questions and listening to different answers and listening to why certain creators made different choices has been hugely influential from the very start of the podcast to, even just recently. I interviewed Dave Chisholm about his book, Is Ted Okay? Mad Cave book, which is great, by the way. And I asked Dave about color choices that he made for this certain section of, I don't know if it was issue 1 or issue 2. And Dave's like, every choice you make with a comic, narratively, the panel layouts, the coloring, the lettering, the placement of the lettering, like every decision you make is a chance to move the story forward and to tell that story, whether or not it's narratively or whether or not it's emotionally or tonally.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I guess for some people, like, that might be intuitive or might seem like common sense, but Dave stating it so plainly kind of opened my mind a little bit. Like, there's no throwaway choices. Everything that you can do is a chance to inform the reader, give them some piece of information or to tell your story. And I was just like, it just like really broke my mind for a second and kind of reframed a couple of things that I've been working on to make sure that I'm not just putting something down because I have to put it down, that I'm
Yes.
carefully thinking about why I am doing it a certain way. And I'm not an artist, so, in terms of like the choices that I'm putting into the script and how the artist interprets that, and not just say, oh yeah, I got that page in, that page looks great, but to really look it over and talk to the artist about it. Yeah, so I'm still learning, still growing.
We all are. No, no, those fantastic. So I could talk to you for an hour about just that alone. That's not what this is about, sadly. I will say one last thing for you because I do. You have been an inspiration to watch you and to see how you've done these things, and just basically everything you've done has been successful. And I'm like, gosh, and I'll read it and I'll go, this is good. This is why it's successful. This makes sense. So
Well,
it's
I
fantastic.
do appreciate that. I do appreciate that, but not everything I've done has been successful. I mean, when I first started out sending submissions to every anthology on social media that posted like an open call, like, I mean, for every one yes, I had 10 to 20 rejections. you
Exactly,
know?
exactly. It's same here where it's like, okay, well, I have to figure out what to do. What's Jimmy done? Okay, let me just start a podcast. So here we are.
Yeah.
Um, let's go ahead. We're going to open this book. We're going to start looking at some things, and we're going to ask first about the cover. How much input did you have on the cover? What did you want the cover to convey?
Yeah, so the artist Amber Aiken did the cover. Amber has been an absolute dream collaborator. She is unbelievably talented. Her art style is very cute, very whimsical, very fun, and I think the book could be a lot heavier in tone because the family at the heart of it is kind of in conflict and crisis. But Amber's art brings such a lightness to everything. So with that being said, Amber did a couple of different covers. I think she did like 4 proposals for covers.
Mm,
I like this one. Amber liked this one. There was one other one that I thought was really great as well. The folks at Papercutz, our first editor on the book, we had 2 editors, Stephanie Brooks and then Teddy Leo. They were both phenomenal. Stephanie Brooks and the folks at Papercutz really liked this one. They liked how Penny and the Yeti were kind of like front and center on it. And even though everybody thinks of Yeti as kind of like, the abominable snowman, like the winter, it's bright and it's sunny. And so they really liked that one. And I didn't like have a strong urge to fight them. I mean, all the covers were really good that Amber proposed. I was certainly happy with this one. I liked how it centered Penny and Yeti. I think it's a book also, like the marketing stuff that you have to think about. Like there was another cover that I liked, but it it I it conveyed something a little different. So I think when you
mhm.
see this on a shelf, and certainly, I've bought plenty of books for my 2 kids, and like you see it and you're like, oh, Penny, Yeti, it looks fun, it looks bright. Um, and I think it's some. I think the colors of it are very attractive. Also, the logo, the Penny and the Yeti logo, was designed by Tim Daniel. I'm a huge Tim Daniel fan. For anyone who doesn't know, Tim has done a ton of design stuff. He's also written a bunch of comics, like with David Andre,
Mhm.
that they've co-written a lot of stuff that I love. So when Papercutz had asked me if I knew anybody, if I had anybody in mind for designing a logo, I said, well, I know Tim Daniel does. Is there any chance you could get him? And they did. So that was like amazing that I could say Tim Daniel designed the Penny and the Yeti logo.
I like you've already listed a ton of names, and that just shows how much work actually goes into a comic itself. It's not one person. This is a team of people that had to point and do these things. One thing I want to know about, though, these covers, you mentioned a bunch of different covers. What happens to them? Do we just not ever see them again? Is it something that you have on the shelf you want to use later?
No, I mean, I think there was some talk about putting some of the covers like in the back of the book. But I think there's certainly things that, if this is what Amber's a teacher, and Amber does some other stuff as well, but this is something, Amber really wants to do. I think it's certainly something that, if Amber does conventions one day, that you could see some other Penny and the Yeti prints on her table. So right now they're in various stages of being done. Amber has those cover ideas. I don't think there's any plans to do anything with them right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they popped up, in the future.
Absolutely, the art is incredible. By the way, that was easily a big selling point for me, was the art. This is the inside cover. Anything specific you want to say about this? Any reason that this is the image for it?
Well, you see in this first section of the book that Yeti starts out as well. Let me just, I guess I'll take it a step back and say the family at the center of this, and we'll see them. It's Fenton and Maxine are the parents, and their two kids are Penny and Perry. Perry's the older sister, Penny's the younger sister. Perry's like 12, 13. Penny's like, let's say 6, 7, maybe. And
Six,
so
7?
6, 7. I didn't. That was not intentional. It should have been.
My children have ruined my brain. It's my fault. Go ahead.
A reference is done when a 46-year-old man is saying it on a podcast, so we can put that one to bed.
Take that, kids.
So you'll see that Yeti starts out as a sidewalk chalk art that Perry does, and Penny really likes it. So Perry is almost a teenager, is kind of a little checked out, finds her, with the parents, kind of finds her sister a little bit annoying at times, but Perry's a good kid. She's not like a problem kid. This isn't about like Perry's rebellious streak. And so she does another drawing of the Yeti on paper and gives to Penny so Penny can have it. And so that just is kind of what the inside cover represents, that drawing that foreshadows that drawing that Perry gives to Penny.
Yes, sir. Now let's see. This is our first page. Now, I'm assuming this might have been a cover, or is this filler for the book?
Yeah, I think it was just an idea, and it is something that shows up later, something similar, and it just really encompasses like the fun and the imagination of both Penny and Yeti when they're together, and I just think it's a good way to kind of introduce these characters before you meet them, because it'll be a while, and after the first section of the book, that you meet Yeti. So I think this is a nice way to kind of show this is going to be a really fun friendship between the two of them.
That's a great point, because when I was reading it, I said, "Oh, the Yeti doesn't start the book at all. This is family at first," and to go, "Oh, well, this shows you where you're going," is like, okay, that makes more sense. Now, I do have a question though about the layout of the book itself. How much input did you get to give in doing the layout? Because typically, that I've seen, maybe I'm wrong, but these credits pages are on the inside cover, the back inside cover. But we had two art pages instead. Is that your choice? Was this Papercutz choice?
Yeah, it was Papercutz in terms of those aspects of the layout. Like they go through and they tell us like, oh, we're gonna put some other stuff here. We're gonna do this. What do you think of this? Like they run stuff by us, but I didn't dictate. Oh, we need this, we need that.
Hmm.
If I laid out my own book and I would tell the designer I want this here and that there. But no, Papercutz did a lot of the actual layout in terms of everything leading up to the credits page. Like we were shown everything and asked for input.
Do you know why they decided to do it this way? Is there any specific background information on this?
I mean, in terms of showing the two art pages first,
Yeah,
I
I
just
didn't know
think,
if it was to fluff page count or how these worked out, so I was curious.
yeah, no, it was just to kind of, Amber had some other stuff,
Hmm.
in terms of stuff that could be used for other prints, and I think it was just a good way to kind of show you a little bit of what you're going to be getting in the story, and I think it's more traditional with all ages books or kids books to have more like art pages there in the beginning rather than like back matter,
Hmm.
to show kids the stuff that they're going to get into like once you get inside the book.
That's good insight. I do like that. Let's see here. Now, this is the next one. This is my favorite page that I typically get to see. Who didn't carry the weight here? Who do you want to call out?
I mean, honestly, this was such a team effort. Like if you don't understand how, if there's anyone watching or listening who like doesn't understand how a comic book is made, like I will say it is truly a team effort from the script that I wrote, but it was edited by Stephanie Brooks and Teddy Leo. Amber did all of the art and the coloring. I think she had her sister uh, as a flatter in the
Hmm.
book. And then Buddy Beaudoin, who I love Buddy, and they asked for if we knew anyone that lettered. I had given them like a name or two, and Buddy was one of them. They were able to get Buddy. I've worked with Buddy before. Buddy lettered the whole book. He did an absolutely, incredible job. Um, but yeah, the book designer at Papercutz, I mean, everybody just really did a phenomenal job. And the team at Papercutz was just absolutely amazing to work with. I mean, truly, I've been spoiled by this experience. I
Seeing that
mean,
Buddy was the last.
honestly,
Oh, go ahead.
no, honestly, I've been like spoiled by this experience. I mean it.
No, no, I believe it. Like seeing everything on this, I'm like, I couldn't even imagine having my name on something like this. I was gonna say, I think Buddy probably did the least amount of work, seeing that he was the last name you listed. So just by order of elimination, I'm sorry, Buddy, you're out. I love
Oh,
him too. He's fantastic. He's so
poor
good.
Buddy.
So let's go
Yeah,
ahead.
I
Oh,
mean, I've worked with Buddy a few times, and Buddy also writes. He's written some comics as well that are really good, and yeah, but just a phenomenal letterer, a great person to work with.
when it comes to lettering, when it comes to trying to learn to letter and to understand the art behind it, Buddy was one of the most insightful, incredible people I've ever talked to about it. So anyone listening, Buddy is fantastic. If you are trying to letter, find him, talk to him, bug him until he tells you all of his secrets because he's great.
Yes.
Um, Now this is our very first page. This is how you have to hook the people. What did you do on this first page?
Yeah. So what we did in terms of telling this story, it was I um, basically thought I would be able to do this in 114 pages. I think was my first um, when Papercutz had asked me how many pages is the graphic novel. I had only written an outline at that point, and I said about 114 pages because I was figuring I would divide it into sections
Mhm.
like a normal trade paperback. 5 standard issues is about 22 to 23 pages. So 110 to 115 pages. So I put it at, I knew it needed to be an even number. So I put it at about 114 is how I came up with it. And then when I started to break out the story from the outline, I did break it down into sections that made the most, sense to me, as if it were 5 single issues, and, kind of had natural breaks for me in terms of the storytelling. And so section 1, it was establish the family. And I thought the most important thing was to make the family seem as real as possible, because we're going to be introducing like a cryptid, a yeti, an abominable snow person into this story. And so I wanted the family to seem very, very real, so that we introduce this little bit of like chaos. I thought that would be a really good juxtaposition, and I thought it would really help tell the story that we wanted to tell. And so it was important to me that Yeti didn't show up until the very end of section 1. I wanted to establish this family, establish this characters, let the reader know what the issues were. I wanted kids to see Penny, and if they were around Penny's age, like 6 to 10, and they were reading it or reading it with their parents, that they were able to relate to Penny and were able to see like what is going on in the home before Yeti shows up. So we start off with our establishing shot of the house, and then after we see the house, the first thing we do is we go inside, we see Penny playing, and we kind of get a sense of Penny just, playing by herself with her dolls, her figures, and then instantly we kind of pull back and see what is going on in the background of the house. So I wanted to get into make it clear on the face of it, like what the issues were with the parents and Penny's relationship to them, and having her witness, what we see, what is going to be the main conflict of it. And so I wanted to try and establish all of that on the first page. And Amber just did a phenomenal job taking my script and kind of, she did I wasn't that descriptive with like the layout of the inside of the house, but she did a phenomenal job of Penny's little play area. And she did a great job with the design of all the characters, and especially of Mom and Dad, Maxine, and Fenton.
Yeah, no, everyone feels different and they feel unique. I do want to talk real quick about the Playhouse and about what Penny is doing. You mentioned earlier about the information that every panel, every page should be pushing forward towards something. I haven't got to read the full script or the full story just yet, only these pages, but she's talking about mountain climbing and jet skiing. Are these hints at what happens in the future, or just showing that she has a big imagination and likes to do big things?
Yeah, it was just showing that like she has a big imagination. So
Okay.
that was the main thing. Like she's okay playing on her own. We do meet friends of hers later on, and we see Penny in her dance class. We see Penny and Yeti at her school. She does have a play date with her friend Harper, who's her best friend. So she, she does have friends, that she plays with and dances with, and does all of that. But she's also a kid that is like okay, on her own, and coming up with her own world, and using her dolls to kind of tell a story and have fun and do big things.
Perfect. And she doesn't look like a maladjusted kid the way that she's playing. It's like, okay, no, she's fine. She's okay. Don't worry about her. She
Yeah,
doesn't.
she's
She's
not
not gonna pull up.
Spike from Toy Story.
Yeah, that's so. Let's see what happens next. We have a little bit more of the argument and her seeing it. What was the plan here?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of establish Mom and Dad's dynamic and Penny's relationship to both of them. So we see Mom and Dad kind of getting into a little bit of an argument, and it was important, right? I think right away to show how Penny sees it, because a lot of this book is going to be, about how Penny views the arguing and the conflict with her parents. And so that's really what we want to establish, because this is a book for kids, and kids sometimes see things differently than adults do. Arguments that
Mhm.
adults think are no big deal, or maybe arguments that adults think are a big deal. Like the kids can interpret things totally differently. I also think as parents, and I know I'm guilty of this, and I know from talking to my friends, a lot of them, feel the same way, where you sometimes don't realize how much kids actually observe
Mhm.
and absorb. And so it was important for me, especially for kids that would be reading this, to show them that Penny's smart. Penny understands stuff. Penny has a lot of big feelings about things, but sometimes it's just tough for her to articulate those feelings. So it was important to show how Penny views what's going on with her parents and how Penny's relationship to the conflict between them. And so that's what we see and hear, how she approaches her dad and how dad responds to her.
Yes. Now, this is going to be a lot of points throughout the comic. We're going to have a lot of conversations about these arguments, and we're going to kind of peel back some layers on why the arguments are happening. But in these first 2 pages, I was like, oh, Dad's kind of okay. Like he's saying, I'm not running from the argument. I'm going to work. When you say a line like that, when you write a line like that, how true is it for you? How much do you relate to that too? Because that felt like something I've said 100 times.
Yeah, I do get. I do get it. There's certainly things that, like, I've in this comic that I've said similarly. I'm
Mhm.
sure, if not verbatim, then paraphrasing or with the same intentionality. It was important to me, a couple of things with this book, knowing that it was an all ages book, that kids would be reading it, is that I never wanted to make mom and dad seem like villains. I didn't want to make them be the bad guys of the book. I didn't want them to be seen as, like, quote unquote, bad parents or neglectful parents.
Mhm.
Um, and so I also never wanted it to be um, like one-sided. Like, this isn't a book also where, like, dad's a great dad and mom is slacking, or mom's a great mom and dad's slacking. Um, I think both parents do things that are problematic, but
Yes.
I think it's a thing that dads say or moms say if they're going to work. I think it's a thing that parents say to kids. Like, I can't do this now. I have this other important thing to do.
Mhm.
And I think kids pick up on that and know when it's kind of inauthentic. And so I think later on we see, Fenton kind of avoiding things at times, and that's kind of an issue for him, where he's avoiding things and in his phone a lot is kind of dad's problem, amongst other things. Dad
When
could stand to be a better listener. We'll find throughout the book.
that's when you were saying they both had bad things at the start, I was like, I'm Team Dad. I don't know what the problem is. And then as I was going later, I was like, Dad, like you're kind of letting me down, dude. Let's go ahead. We'll move to the next page. So this is where I'm gonna ask some more questions about in a comic. Some people say that you have to have, page turns, you have to have action, you shouldn't have people talking a lot. This is not the case for this comic. This is a slice of life comic. Can you explain to me how you try to make these pages interesting to keep the reader hooked?
Yeah, great question. Because you hear that a lot in comics. Like, you got to write for the page turn, and I certainly understand that, and I do think there are moments in the graphic novel where we did that. But in the first section, it's like I said, it's very important for me to establish the family. And one of the things I think is that Amber's art really does a ton of the heavy lifting.
Oh yeah.
All throughout the book, but especially in the first section, because it is very, there is, a lot of talking. Buddy does that a lot too. And that's something I think folks probably maybe don't think about a lot with the lettering, but a lot of Buddy's choices in terms of how the lettering is presented, I think helps to, like, you know, make sure the reader's eye knows where to go,
Hmm.
and kind of helps with the pacing and, to move the story along. In terms of my part and the writing of it, I really wanted kids especially to um, to like Penny, to kind of feel for Penny, to empathize with Penny. And so there was, I always wanted to focus on how these things were impacting her, because I felt if kids empathized with Penny, it would propel them to keep going, to find out, you know, what happens, to her, what happens to the family moving forward.
Yeah, no, and the arguments, like you said, they're not scream fights, they're not hateful fights. They are just regular kind of styled fights. Nothing goes crazy. To give a little more love for Buddy, the panel was this number panel 3. You strip all the background down, and in some lettering, they would still use the bubbles. Buddy strips down the panels too, or the bubbles too. It is just straight words. You understand that this scene, these 2 moments, these conversations here, are what is important, and her yelling, trying to get their attention. I love that. I love that about Buddy. Big fan. But we continue here. We continue with the arguments. Is there anything on this page that you'd like to point out or to talk about?
No, I mean, I think that kind of, sums it all up. I really do like how Amber and Buddy, like you said, really stripped down that one panel where there's no background. It just really focuses on the two parents, and Penny in the middle. I
Mhm.
think really helps drive that moment home.
That's one of my favorite things is when people can understand their important scenes and actually do that. You don't see a lot. A lot of people just want to draw as much as they can to make it look nice, but this is what makes it good to me. Let's move to our next page. We have them leaving. We have a little bit more of the arguments. This
Yeah.
specific argument, is there a way that you wanted to word it, a way that you wanted it to flow in your head?
No, I really just wanted to show the back and forth to the parents, and it was really important to show Penny interacting, at like every stage of it. And I wanted to show this is a situation where it wasn't that like a simple argument and that's the end of it. Like, to get into what is going on and what we're going to see happen with this family throughout, and not this that the parents like argue a little bit, that it's a continuing problem, is that like this is still going on even with Penny there, even with Fenton in the car, like, to show that the argument continues past the point where we probably in another circumstance or another book would have like cut it off and been it. You're
Mhm.
going to see that that's the issue. There's something going on with these two people. They are at a point where they are frustrated with each other or tired, or there's something going on that this still continues past a point where um probably past the point where it really should, especially with Penny there, so that we know that there's some real issues here.
The other part of this conversation's argument is the way that she interacts with it, because she goes to that window and she says, "Just say sorry and it'll be better." It's one of those. It hit home really hard where you're like, I don't want my kids to always feel that way, and she doesn't understand, and she thinks all you have to do is say sorry, and that's one of those things that helps reflect on a character and kind of show their perception of the situation. Um,
Yeah.
the other part. Oh, go ahead.
Penny really just wants everything to be okay. And so by continuing the argument between the parents while Penny's there and giving her an opportunity to interact, really with both of them, you see it from her perspective. Like, she's a kid that, like, she's a sweet kid, and
Mhm.
she just wants everything to be all right. And that's like her perception of it. Like, oh, you get in an argument, you say you're sorry, you move forward, everything's fine. And like, you know, that is how kids look at things sometimes, but
It's that simple for them, yeah.
yeah, it can be, but adult relationships are unfortunately sometimes more complex. Not that kids' relationships can't, to their other friends, can't be, or they don't have a capacity to understand it. But, at a certain level, I think they say, oh, you say you're sorry and everything's okay and you move on, because that's sometimes what we tell kids before they understand, that there has to be some, intention to it. I remember someone telling me, like, you don't just say you're sorry. Like, I'm sorry implies I didn't mean to do it, or I feel bad that I did it, but also that I'm going to strive to not do this thing that hurt you again.
Yeah.
And that's the part definitely that if Fenton or Maxine were to say sorry to each other, that they are missing out on for a lot of this book.
Yes, and that was again seen multiple times later on here. But we get to meet the sister. How old is she?
Perry's like 12. I'd say
Okay.
she's probably about 12, like maybe sixth grade.
Yeah, she reminds me of my oldest daughter. Go ahead and tell me a little bit more about her and what you wanted to do with this scene.
Right. So this is we introduce the older sister Perry. So we want to establish like who Perry is. Because Perry is the one that draws Yeti. One of the things I thought would be interesting and that Amber liked as well was that Perry loves cryptids. Like that's kind of her thing. Like later on in the book, we see Perry's room, and you'll see that cryptid influence. So I think for the original, I don't know if it shows up in the book actually, but the original sketch that I think it is in the book, Amber sent me. She drew Perry wearing a Mothman t-shirt, which I was like, I would wear that t-shirt if somebody made it. So we have her in like Amber drew her for this opening in like this Loch Ness Monster t-shirt. So we established that, a little hint that Perry likes cryptids. And, I initially, rather than start with a sweet sisterly bond, I wanted to start to show the dynamic that Perry is a little a little older than her sister, a little bit annoyed, let's say, by her. So I kind of wanted to establish that right off the bat, that, and then but Perry's relationship with her sister, I think, is pretty typical. She can be annoyed by her sister, but she also does stuff with her. And she also does I think, protect her from her big feelings about her parents arguing. I think Perry is of an age where she's the way I've been describing it is Perry's a bit checked out by it. She's just kind of like, yeah, this is like what they do. And as long as they're not yelling at me, I'm okay with it. Whereas Penny, I think, is more of a empathic towards the fighting and the arguing in the house.
That's very sad. Thank you. I do want to point out. So this is where I want to talk about how this is inspired. The story itself is inspired by, I believe, your daughter. Correct?
Yes. So, and this has been, an interesting thing to talk about, because if I had planned this out, and if I would have planned out better my first, like my debut graphic novel, I would have done things differently. But because this started as a story that my daughter Penny, and I came up with together 4 years ago, it's, you can't help but draw parallels as to like, oh, how much stuff did you take, from real life and put in the book? And I've had to, in talking about the book, say the difference between the character of Penny and my daughter Penny. But I mean, the origin of this is that, and I've told this story, but I was putting Penny to bed one night 4 years ago. For whatever reason, I really get a kick out of talking to kids like they are adults, in terms of asking them questions that you would ask like another adult, not necessarily a kid. So I asked Penny, I'm like, you have any big plans for the summer? And she's like, no. I'm like, 5. Like, what are you doing? And she goes, what about you? And I'm like, well, I have to work. I go to work every day. It's not, there's no extra fun for me. And I was like, why? What do you think I should do this summer? And she said, like, you should write a story. And I said, oh, well, I've been thinking about doing that, because she knows that I did stuff with Comic Book Yeti. And she knew that I had told them, oh, I'm trying to, she would see me writing in my notebook, because I like to do all my first drafts by hand and then I edit as I type it. So typing it is like I edit as I type it, but I like to do everything by hand in my notebooks. And so she would see me write, and what are you doing? Oh, I'm writing a story. I want to write comics. And She's like, we used to write a story. And I said, what should it be about? She goes, it should be about a Yeti. And I said, great. I said, but you have to be in it too. And so we came up with a story idea that was called Yeti and the Big Stomp. A part of it is in the book, Penny and the Yeti.
Mhm.
And I thought it would be neat to show Penny how a comic is made. So I took the story idea that we kind of came up with, and I scripted it and expanded it into like a 4-page story, gave it like a little, like Penny and Yeti go to a diner. Yeti wants snow to eat. All they have is fish. Yeti gets upset, does a big stomp, cracks the diner, runs outside. Penny has to go out and comfort Yeti and say, like, it's all right to have these big feelings, but you need to find a better way to deal with them. Let's go in and say sorry to what happened at the diner. And I reached out to Beck Kubrick, who the first story I ever had published in Lifeline Comics by Visibility anthology. I was teamed with Beck. Beck did a phenomenal job on that story. It's the first thing of mine that was ever published. And Beck wasn't available, but gave me the names of a few people. And as soon as I saw Amber's art, I was like, perfect. So Amber did the 4-page story. She colored it. She drew it. She colored it. She lettered it. And it was just a thing that I had. I put it on the internet. I showed Penny on the iPad. Just, look, Penny, remember that story idea we came up with? Like, this is how a comic's made. This is what it looks like. Like, this is you in comic form. You're a comic book character. And so then I just wanted to push myself to do something more. And I had submitted to a bunch of anthologies, but never to like a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, you know what? Mad Cave has, open submissions. What art they wanted 6 to 8 pages of art. And I was trying to think if I had anything or if I was going to hire an artist to do something else. And I said, I have the 4 pages of Yeti and the Big Stomp. I said, I wonder if I could do something with that. And if I was going to make a story about Penny and a Yeti, like, what would it be about? So I came up with an outline about this family that's struggling, and Penny doesn't like it. And the Yeti shows up, and I asked Amber if she would, does she care if I pitched it? And I said, look, I don't know if anything's going to happen. I'm just really trying to propel me to do something more. Yes. And so I wrote up the outline. I did all of that. And I said, all right. So I submitted it. And then that was it. I checked it off my list. All right. I've now taken another step forward in my journey to try and be a writer. I submitted a pitch to a publisher. And then a month later, Papercutz got back to me and they're like, hey, we really like this. We love Amber's art. And I was like, oh, okay. so it's like, hey, Amber, how do you feel about drawing a 114-page graphic novel?
That is fantastic.
Because of all of that, yeah, it's you can't help but make the comparisons to real life. And certainly, I mean, I have 2 daughters, and I certainly have taken things from my own life to put in this. There's something that happens later with Fenton and Maxine, and no matter where I stand in the kitchen, I am in my wife's way. I think it's a typical thing that I've heard a lot of other folks mention. And there's a panel that, a page that I love that, Fenton's in the way.
So real quick on your daughter being aware of this, no matter what I do, my kids are unimpressed. Did you finally impress your child?
Oh no, I don't think so. I think she hasn't read the whole thing yet. I've certainly talked to Penny about it, but she has told me that she wants to wait till the physical book is out to read it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
She does, she has seen some of the art from it, and I think she's excited about it. And I think my older daughter, Charlotte, I think is excited as well.
She might be a little more angry though that she's not part of the book. It's Perry instead. But hey, I'm not going to go there for you. Don't worry about it. It's just trauma that you're causing.
Yes.
How old is Charlotte? Is she 12 too?
She's 13. Charlotte's 13.
Yeah, she feels away.
So she Charlotte, I think, is not excited about a lot of stuff until she is, and like it's amazing when she is excited about something and just like lights up and wants to talk about it endlessly, and
Yes.
it's my favorite, like no matter what it is, because I'll be like, oh hey Charlotte, you want to watch this movie? Hey Charlotte, I just read this book, or I just interviewed this person. I think you'd like this, and she's like, no, no. But then when she does find something she likes, and she is just like she binge watched Stranger Things and was just all Stranger Things all the time. And she likes theater, not everything, but when she finds like a musical or a show that she really likes, and she's, very animated about talking about it, it's the best. So she hasn't been too excited about Penny and the Yeti, but like she wanted to, but then I found her, she had asked me to send her the screenshot of the initial character designs with the whole family and Yeti on it. And I said, oh, yeah, well, sure, no problem. And I think she was like sending it to her friend saying like, I'm Perry, I'm the older sister. And I'm like, oh, so she is excited. She just doesn't want to let me know.
It's a core memory. I mean, no matter what you've done, you've given these kids a core memory, and that's fantastic.
Right.
Let's move into Perry actually drawing the Yeti for the first time.
Yeah.
This
So
is an important scene.
yeah, this is them. They don't know what it is they want to do. They're trying to figure something out. They both like art. Penny finally hits on sidewalk chalk art, and they get into start drawing stuff. And then it's the first time, because we established that, the Loch Ness and the Yeti, Perry likes cryptids. Perry's a pretty good artist. And this is the first time we see Yeti in sidewalk chalk form. And this is also because of all the things the kids could have done and that we could have introduced Yeti. Like, I personally love and have loved for the past, 13 years doing sidewalk chalk art. I'm terrible at it. I'm a terrible drawer. But there's nothing I love more than helping the kids or being out there with the kids and just like drawing ridiculous stuff on the driveway.
Yes, no, I totally agree. That was one of the things we had like a whole day where we sat out doing sidewalk chalk together, and your kids are like, "Look, it's an elephant." You're like, "Are you sure?" It is, but yes, this is great. But we get to see now. I have a question about Perry being the one creating the Yeti. Is this
Yeah.
important for the
Yes.
story? Okay, so it
Yes.
does come into play later.
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
maybe in a way that's not at first obvious, but in terms of when Yeti shows up later on in the book, Penny thinks Yeti has shown up and is there to help Penny get her parents to stop fighting.
Ah.
It's very important. It was very important to Amber and I, though, and our editors, that, that's not the case, right? Because kids aren't responsible to parent their parents. Kids aren't
Yes.
responsible for their parents arguing. They're not responsible to fix it. And even though Penny thinks that, like, nothing they do, like, really works. Or nothing, it doesn't work. Not really works. It doesn't work. But Yeti's really there, and the way I saw Yeti in the story, because there was a lot of back and forth developing this, like, is Yeti imaginary? Can only Penny see Yeti? Can only some people see Yeti? Is Yeti real? Like, how are we going to deal with the Yeti of it all? But I wanted Yeti to be real, and I wanted Yeti to basically be a stand-in for the kind of friend and sibling that Penny, needed. And even though, Perry's there, Perry, because of, Perry's a bit checked out. Perry isn't always there in the way that maybe Penny needs her to be. She tries her best. It's not like she's, it's not like she's doing anything wrong. She's human like everybody else except for Yeti. But it was very important to me, though, that the conduit through which Yeti comes into Penny's life is Perry.
I thought that was interesting. When I saw it, I was like, well, why is Penny not the one drawing this? This has to mean something. So that's fantastic. We're gonna move into the dinner table scene now. We still have more arguing. Every time we see these parents, they are always
Right.
arguing. What
Early,
are they
they
fighting
have their
about?
moments. They have their moments later
I
on.
didn't
But
see it on mine, but what are they fighting about right now?
um, yeah, right now, most of the time it's just kind of like they're arguing about nothing, and that's the thing. Like the conflict in the house is, um, it's it's really nothing major, but it's constant, and it's way too much for Penny's liking. Hold on, I'm just trying to look to remember what this particular argument
Oh,
was
it's fine.
about.
For the most of it, I believe it was a phone situation or attention. A lot of it was attention. You don't
Yeah.
understand if you would get your head out of the phone. That was a lot of it.
Yeah,
Um,
Fenton is something like he's at the dinner table with his phone. Fenton is somebody that is always on his phone but never thinks he's on it as much as everybody,
yes.
thinks he is. Um, and he's very defensive about it. It's something that Penny actually brings up later on in the book, trying to remember what her mom says about when her dad gets called out for being on the phone.
Which was another thing that I was like, oh, I remember doing that when I was younger. So um, we get to see Perry just again done with it, done with the dinner too. She's moving out or getting off the table. Anything
Yeah.
else on this page that we need to talk about?
Um, Let me look. Uh, no, I mean, I think that's the main thing. We're establishing. This is the first time we see all four of them together.
Hmm.
So it was important to kind of establish that dynamic.
So we get them four together, and this is also about where um, my perception on the dad started to shift a little bit.
Yeah.
We're going to move in with the mom, and we're going to see kind of how she is as a parent. Um, Anything you want to talk about on this specific page?
Yeah, so I mean, we're just kind of in the beginning of this, we're just kind of moving through, like, we've established a little bit of the problem early on with when dad was going to work. We
Hmm.
introduced Perry, because we have to get all our character introductions done, and now we've seen Yeti being drawn. We we go to the dinner, our first time seeing everybody, more of the conflict, you know, between the parents. And now we're later on that same night, and now we see uh, you know, we see mom and Penny. We see she's reading to Penny. She's kind of addressing the fight. And I also wanted to show, again, continuing to show Penny's relationship to the parents, both together and individually, and how the parents are doing one thing in terms of arguing with each other, and then how they are um, interpreting it and talking about it with Penny. Because here we
Hmm.
see Maxine. Maxine's like, she's not trash talking Fenton and like throwing him under the bus, really.
Yeah, no.
She's
Penny says, Do you even like Dad?" And she says, "I love your dad." Like, what are you
right.
talking about?
Yeah, and then she said, she goes, "I don't like when you fight." And I think Maxine responds, "Yeah, I don't like it either." So we are clearly seeing a family, or at least the parents in this relationship, who are maybe a bit stuck. They don't like, they at least to some degree, when talking with Penny, recognize what is happening. I don't
Hmm.
think they maybe not to the extent and are as understanding as to how much it bothers Penny, but they also don't seem to know how to do anything about it. They seem a bit stuck because it's clear that they don't like what's going on either. And I
So,
think that's a common thing, that people kind of get stuck in patterns of behavior and see that a lot. I think kids can kind of get that. I don't think we're talking about anything that's like too complex, but certainly I wanted to have something in here, the parents reading the book like with the kids, or the parents and kids could talk about.
absolutely. And that was again what with how she sees things. when you're reading this comic, you're basically from Penny's perspective, and so this is what she's getting to see. This was the page where I was like, okay, so things are okay in the family. It's not as bad as I actually think because I can pick it up from the context clues of how the mom is discussing him, and like you said, not trash talking. So it was a great page for me to really kind of understand the family dynamic there. Um, we're gonna go ahead and move into the next page, and we have the dad. He comes in. He's also everyone seems fine, right? Like anything you want to say about this one?
No, again, I just wanted to, I wanted to show Dad coming in. I wanted to show that even though Maxine had just said she didn't like the arguing to Penny, like neither of them can like help themselves at times in
No.
terms of their little the bickering and the little like back and forth. And then Fenton comes in and he's like gives Penny a kiss goodnight, and like we see like a loving family, but the two of them like can't get out of like I don't know if they can't get out of their own way sometimes, or they just can't get unstuck from what is going on whenever they are like in this mode when they are arguing. So again, we see Fenton come in. We see, he's not a dad who's sitting downstairs on his phone when mom's putting Penny to bed. He wants to come up. He wants to say goodnight too. You're thinking, oh, these are all good things.
Yeah.
We see them showing affection to their kids, saying, I love you. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Why can't these parents get it together?
Which I'm sure is the crux of the problem that we're going to solve by the end of the book. Let's see where we are at now.
Yeah.
We have the drive. We're going to school, having more of a conversation. I can't remember what she says here, but she said something that I said, "Oh my gosh." Well, why do you and mom fight so much? That was her question. This is another one of those hard things as a parent where you're like, how do I
Right.
answer this?
Oh, it is. Yeah. And I mean, Fenton doesn't really have like, a great answer. He says, I wish I had a good answer. The other thing I really like about this page, just from a total like dad joke level, is I did want to put a little bit of that in Fenton because I wanted to have moments where we see the parents with the kids and we're like, oh, these parents are okay. They're not all terrible. And so I wanted to kind of pick and choose those moments. And I thought this would be a perfect one. They're driving to school and Penny says, "Can I ask you a question?" And he just lists off like 3 or 4 ridiculous questions. And then she hits him. Then she just sucker punches him with the question about him and Maxine fighting. And asks and promise, makes him promise that he's gonna try try harder, try and do better. So
like you said earlier, you said this is about the family. You have the dynamics, and you've given Penny quality time with the sister. You've shown her with time with the mother, and now we're showing time with the father. Everyone's getting a minute, and you get to see a little bit more inside of what's happening for each and every character, um, which is fantastic. I think that's another one of those things where I was like, well, it's slice of life, but I'm getting to see the dynamics here, and that's what makes it more engaging for me to understand it. And now we're going to see Penny herself in her own time with her own little circle of people. What inspired these characters for you?
Yeah, the one thing was I wanted Penny to have a friend. I want other than Yeti. I didn't want it to seem like it was like Yeti comes in and is like, her new best friend, and that's what it's about. It was important for me to show that Penny has, she has friends outside of her family. She goes to school. It also gave me a really good chance as I plotted out the first section to, show that Penny has like a full life. We're seeing her, do all these things. So we establish her school, and also I always liked school, and my kids like school, and
Good.
I wanted to show school. I wanted to show that Penny has a pretty diverse friend group. Although I don't know if I ever asked Amber this, but it's in the second panel of this page is Penny and her best friend Harper, and I don't know if this was intentional, but the other two kids in that panel look like Amber and I as children. So I
I
don't know if
love that.
I don't know if I ever asked Amber if that was intentional. But it looks there might be little Amber and little Jimmy, also friends with Penny and Harper.
It's good
So this was
references.
really to show Penny at school, to show her with her friend Harper, and kind of establishing that relationship, because Harper's going to come back later on. And when she comes back later on, when they have a play date with Yeti, I wanted Harper to already be established. So I wanted it to, and Amber did a fantastic job with, doing all these different things. Like, I did not make this easy in terms of, it wasn't just all set in the house. Like, she had to draw and design a school and a classroom and a the playground for school. But I really like how in the last panel, in particular, which is something that, because I'm an old man, I don't we were not very well hydrated when I was in grade school, but now all the kids have water bottles, and I like the I don't know, I don't think it was in the script, but the touch that Amber did of Harper and Penny having their water bottles with her name on it is like chef's kiss.
I wasn't gonna point that. I saw that and I was like, okay, I know Amber did this. I know that he didn't have any take of this. This is exactly me too. Where I was like, I have those water bottles in my house. Like I know these, because my kids, of course, take them to school. It's the craziest thing. So I agree. I'm an old man, 6'7", and water bottles. This is great. Um, let's move forward. We're going to see. So we are done with school. We are now back at the family. We get to have an actual good night. Is that what happened here?
Right. Yeah. So now we're back at school. This is the second time. This is only the second time we're seeing all four family members together, and they have a nice time. Like, it is not every night of this. Okay. So it's not constant to the point where it's like every interaction. Like, sometimes this family like laughs and gets along, and it's almost like a Bluey episode. They have a wonderful time. Yeah. So it was. I wanted to show that, because if it was, and this was something that Stephanie Brooks, our first editor, really drove home with me. She's like, it can't, for kids, it can't be like relentless. We're going to have to lighten it up. And Amber's art does, like I said, a ton of the heavy lifting, but it was also gave me an opportunity to show that, there are times when like everything clicks for this family. These are people that truly do love each other. And we see that in this moment. And I do think I think in this panel, this is the Mothman shirt, I think, that I really like that Perry's
Oh,
wearing.
I see it now. This is great. That feedback about not being relentless is great. That's something I wouldn't even consider. And getting that light in is awesome. Amber does a lot of talking heads throughout the comic. Was this a decision by you in the script, or was this just a way that she portrays things?
Yeah, I think a lot of that was in the script, in terms of, because I knew we were going to have some really fun, imaginative stuff later on.
Mhm.
I was hoping that readers would really attach to the family. So I wasn't too concerned about having it be a lot of talking heads, because I knew if we got past this first section, there's like a ton of fun stuff. But I felt that I really had to establish the family dynamic. And Amber does a lot of other stuff with facial expressions, like in this page in particular, like the stuff she does with Penny's eyes, because she's just like they kind of have almost like these anime eyes. Because she's so excited that mom and dad are laughing together.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, there's and then that last page with them laughing and just the heads. The best thing, one of the best, not the best thing, because there's so many, but one of the best things that Amber did that I absolutely love is the little talking heads when the people are off panel. Because all that was in the script was, Fenton, OP for off panel, says this. And she just did these little heads. And I was just like, I love that.
So I love you. That was the question I meant to ask. I forgot talking heads was another phrase in comics for characters talking to each other. I meant the little
Yeah.
heads themselves because I was like,
Oh,
this has to be an Amber choice, but these are fantastic. I love seeing them
yeah.
too.
It was all
Um,
Amber in terms of doing. They were not. It was not in the script like that. That was just Amber's way. Especially for kids to know who was talking, rather than like you'll see a lot of times in comics, it done in the lettering, like maybe a different color lettering, like a
yeah,
certain color associated with a character is one way to let the reader know who's talking if it's somebody talking off panel. But yeah, Amber did those little heads, and I was just like, gosh, that's the best.
she crushed it. Those are good. We're gonna move forward. We're gonna see a little bit more here, and this is where we get into the dad, and we get to see he is on his phone, and we have I think this is 10 minutes that he's on his phone. He says, "I'm gonna do the thing," and then she's like, "That was 10 minutes ago. She asked you to do the thing, and you're still sitting here." Um, so we're doubling down on kind of the bad traits of the dad. Anything else you wanted to do with this page?
Yeah, no, I mean we saw them have a great time, and then we're kind of we're kind of up and down with the parents. So they just had a wonderful time. They had a wonderful dinner, and now we're getting in a little more in depth than we saw in the beginning. So
Hmm.
as we go through the rest of section 1, we're going to, peeling back the layers a little more in depth, but still in a way that I think kids can understand as to, what is the issue here. Like Fenton being on his phone too much, which we've seen a little bit of, but now we're getting more. And we see that it's not just that he's on his phone, like at the dinner table, like he's starting to be on the phone to the point where it's been 10 minutes and he hasn't realized it's been 10
Hmm.
minutes. And he told Penny that he was going to play and do something with her. And it doesn't seem like he's doing work or anything else. He's just kind of, I don't know, doom scrolling or
Doom scrolling. Yep.
who
Yep.
knows what he's doing. Um, but so we start to see a little bit more about some of the issues with Fenton here, and a little bit more in depth as to what some of the conflict is between Fenton and Maxine, with this page.
This was the page that made me turn on him. I said, "Ah, Vincent, I was trying to root for you. I can't no more." Um, so yeah, no, you did great. Because again, I didn't like the mom at first. I said, "Why is she being so mean to this dude?" Um, so that's how I portrayed it. It might be taken differently by other people. What is this page doing?
Right. So then it's the next day, or yeah, I think it says the next morning on it. So we've established the time. It's the next morning. We now have Penny and Perry, and they're having an argument over the good markers, which I is I think an argument that my two kids had once. I don't know if it was the good markers or like the good crayons, but it was definitely like we had 1,570,000 types of implements that you could write on paper,
Hmm.
but they both wanted to use the same set. Now, whether or not
Yeah,
it's markers or crayons or whatever, I think it's just a sibling argument. I probably had the same exact argument with my
we
brother
all
or
have. Yeah.
sister growing up. So they're having this type of argument. But now, what I wanted to kind of show with this one is that we see the kids kind of engaging in the same type of behavior that that the parents are.
Ooh,
Like we see a little bit of the kids starting to learn those bad habits of conflict resolution that they are learning from mom and dad.
that's a good point. I didn't even realize that until you're pointing it out now. So that's solid. Is the dad understanding that that's happening, or what's happening for him? So, oh, now you're gonna wake your mother. Oh, I remember this whole
Yeah,
scene. Now that this is because this is another one that was hit home where I was like, we're all in trouble. We're all in trouble. You're gonna wake your mom, and sure enough, that's what ends up
right.
happening.
So I think we see here I don't think Fenton realizes it until later exactly what is happening here, but in the moment he is just trying to avoid conflict, and that's what we
Hmm.
saw him do when he left to go to work. He didn't want to continue
Hmm.
the fight. Now he is again not real. He's just taking the markers away and not really doing anything to parent the kids. It's just all about him also not getting yelled at. It seems like doesn't want mom to come down and then yell at him as well. So we see the kids starting to pick up bad habits here. We see Fenton not really doing much other than worrying about like him getting in trouble, and then we kind of see with the next page that spill over into how he interacts with Maxine. He's already started a fight before she even gets in the room, because he's already anticipated what is going to happen, and it just doesn't help the scenario. They instantly start bickering again, so we kind of see this dynamic continue. And
Well, before
Amber
I go
did
to
a
that next book,
really yeah, I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say Amber did a really good job in particular, um, by having Penny and Perry mimic Fenton and Maxine's posture in the last two panels.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Is I thought you were wanting me to flip pages because I was like, no, we gotta talk about this
Yeah.
because those two, the mimic is fantastic, and it's just one of those like you do get the whole them taking what their parents are doing and starting to run with it too. Um, Very solid choices all around. Again, things went from happy, and now we're back to the relentless onslaught of
Yeah.
everything is rough. Um, we'll see the next page, and this is again we're going to go to a white panel, one of my favorite types of panels. Let me know what happened here.
Yeah, it's just a continuation of their argument. We see Fenton taking a little bit of his anger, what's just happened between him and Maxine out on the kids, where he is a little gruff with them when he tells them to put the markers down. We can kind of see in the expression that Amber gave Perry and Penny that they're really not used to him even being, that gruff. And
Mhm.
then that causes more conflict between the two of them, between Maxine and Fenton, and it gets to the point where it's just too much for Penny. No one's yelling at Penny. They're really arguing with each other, but that stress has gotten Penny to the point where she leaves the room. And yeah, Amber did a fantastic job where she most of the background has been pulled out of this whole page, but it really kind of goes to like a white, and we see Penny, you know,
Let's
running away.
let's talk about the stress and colors because yellow has been used as a stress color in another comic that I read. In panel 3, we have it going from blue to yellow. And then in panel 4, you have a very subtle yellow at the bottom, and she's running away from it. When it comes to color choices, is this something that you chose, or is this something that your colorist was just incredible at?
Yeah, no, Amber did all the coloring. Like, her sister helped her flat it, but Amber did all the art and all the coloring. And Amber talked to me about some color choices, but she would once the line work was locked, Amber would do a pass in terms of colors and send it to me. And most of the time, I had very little input. Like, Amber is great at, seriously, Amber was great at color. And yeah, exactly. We have this, this whole section here. We kind of have this blue background. Blue is, the walls of the house are blue. Then we kind of go
Calm,
to
good
just a blue.
colors.
Yeah, calm, good colors, even though they're starting to argue. But yeah, as soon as the stress level starts to rise to a point where Penny gets uncomfortable, and that third panel here, we see it go from blue to yellow, and then kind of that little bit of yellow then to white. As Penny just can't really take any more of the parents kind of
Hmm.
they're bickering.
No, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you paused for just a second. No, again, Amber
Yeah,
is amazing. This is one of the best people you could ever have do a comic because
yeah.
I've loved all these choices that she's made. Um, but the argument was over the crayons, and we see what ends up happening when Perry gets the crayons. Is that right?
Yeah, so then there's um this area for this we established. This is kind of like a not like a walk-in closet. It's more like a big wardrobe that
Hmm.
Penny has in her room, which she has made a little space where she can kind of go and hang out. So she is in her room in like the wardrobe. And she has a little space in there with some of her stuff where she can go. And Perry comes in, and we kind of see this moment where we don't see mom and dad after their argument has kind of sent Penny up into her room to her little calm. I don't really call it like a hiding place. It's more like a little place for her that she's made for herself to kind of hang out and be alone. But we see Perry be the one to come in, and Perry says she can use the markers, and Perry has kind of reflected on the fighting. We kind of see Perry being a little bit, back to, being a sweet sister, that's being protective. Like she's seen now that the arguing really affects Penny, and it causes Perry to, treat her sister with a little bit of kindness, which is great. And then we see that she not only does she tell her she can use the markers, but she has that picture we saw in the beginning. She has now drawn a picture of Yeti on paper to give to her sister because she knows how much Penny liked it when she did it in the sidewalk art.
When it comes to writing complex characters, people who can go from passive and then being this kind, is this a hard thing for you to do? Is this because for me it's always feels one dimensional when I'm writing them down, but this was the most like dimension that Perry's shown me so far.
Yeah, I mean, it can be tough. People are complex, and so I think I always try and think about characters and like why I'm having a character do something. Like, am I doing it
Mhm.
just because I want to move the plot forward, or am I doing it because I think it's consistent with the choices that this character would make?
Mhm.
And so I try to plot out, or at least in my head, even if I don't write it down, like, who is this kid? Who is this person? Who is this character? No
Mhm.
matter what I'm writing, whether it's something like this or whether it's a more of a traditional comic book, beat 'em up hate type of comic, or if it's a horror comic, whatever it is. Like, what is this monster? What is this? What? And so I think if you're just asking, if you're thinking about those things and asking yourself, like, is this something this character would actually do? Am I just putting it in here because I want to move the plot forward? And maybe it's okay sometimes to have a character do that because you need to get from A to B, or
Mhm.
it just would be cool. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but with something like this, and I wanted the characters to feel authentic, and I I've seen I've seen a lot of different kids, and I've seen kids that can be fighting 1 minute and sweet and kind the next. So I don't think this is out of character
No.
for Perry. I just think Perry is the type of kid that like I said, I think is really checked out, and she fights with her sister, but she's still protective of her. And I think when she saw how upset Penny got at the argument and left the room, she felt bad about what had happened.
Of course,
And
of
I think
course.
that's,
Very
does
solid.
a nice thing, for her sister.
And then she gets to take the art to show and tell.
Yep. So she goes back to school, the next day. We see her, we see her teacher, we meet Miss Perez, and this is where we see really this page is to establish how much the drawing did in fact mean to Penny. Not only because
Yeah.
it's the Yeti, but because Perry gave it to her. So that was another reason that it was important to establish that Perry was the one that created the Yeti, because it means a lot to Penny that it came from Perry. And she goes and she takes it into school and she does show and tell, and she gets to show her class.
Perfect. We're going to go a little bit further now and go back to the dinner table. The dinner table, man, this is where the crux of the action happens.
It is.
It's
It's all at that dinner table. Although,
all at the dinner table.
right. And so they're at the dinner table. We see Fenton on his phone. We see another argument start. We find out that Perry's not there this time. We I think this is probably the most panels we've seen on a single page, because I really
Oh my
wanted to
gosh.
try and build that tension, and I had warned Amber that I think I warned Amber. Gosh, I hope I warned Amber that like this is gonna. Can you do this many panels? But Amber found a way to lay it out that was just fantastic, and I thought
I didn't.
really did a nice job to kind of ramp up the tension. I wanted to have more panels. I wanted the page to feel cramped, because these two have really gotten on each other's nerves this day. When Fenton and Maxine.
Great answers, because yes, I love that with lettering too, to make things cramped, to do all that. I did not realize this was 9 panels until you pointed that out. I've never seen a 9 panel page look like a just a normal page for me, and I'm counting going, oh my gosh, this is insane. Again, Amber is fantastic. I have nothing but good things to say.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
yeah, fantastic. So really, this is just to establish Perry's not there. The fight, the arguing is ramping up again. So this is now the second time, and it does not seem like a lot of time has passed where
mm-mm.
we've seen Fenton and Maxine kind of start to argue, and now it's just Penny. Perry isn't there this time.
This is, and again, I wish, just me personally, I wish that there was a little more yellow again to do the colors again, but the stress, but her leaving, you know where she's going now, because you've established it earlier, and we get to see these final few pages where she's back in that walk-in closet or large closet.
Yeah, so we see her flee the room again. It's gotten to a point she can't take the stress. She heads to her room. We see the drawing of Yeti kind of her rushing past knocks it off. We great little panels of just nonsense speech bubbles to show that the parents are still
Mhm.
arguing. Penny can kind of hear it. We see Penny getting upset by herself. We hear the door slam. Or we don't hear it. We see the door. I hear it in my head because I read the word slam. So a little inset panel. Somebody is left. We don't know who, but whatever the arguing has gotten worse. Somebody has left the house. Penny is now by herself. She doesn't have Perry. So that's this page.
And don't forget the art in the background of the happy family. I mean, these are those
Yeah.
juxtaposed things where you're like, this hurts. Like you're hitting me now.
Yeah.
You're really
Oh,
hurting me.
Amber did some stuff with Amber designed Penny's room. I was like amazing. I mean, she did a really fantastic job, and especially Penny's little space with like she's got her little stuffed
Yeah,
animal. Yeah, the drawing of the family in the background. It really is.
Amber, she knows kids. Like this is my house. I get it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but then we get our chime. We get our first moments.
yeah,
Um, anything here you want to talk about before we move to this next page?
yeah. We just have you know, we see Penny. She's upset. She's like kind of just talking to herself. Like, why does this happen? Um, there has to be some way to get her parents to stop arguing, and then we hear this chime, and then uh, the next page, when Amber first sent it to me, because it was just like, Penny. I think the description in the script was like Penny is still in her wardrobe or like
Hmm.
safe space or whatever I called it in the script, and she sees some type of light or something happening on the other side, so that and maybe I think I probably said something like, because I can be very descriptive, and then sometimes I can just let Amber do her thing. I think in this I could go back and check, but I think it was something like, can you do some type of effect here that like lets the reader know that something is happening? Like, if you need me to be more descriptive, I will, but if you have some ideas, it would be great. And then when Amber sent me this page, I was like, oh yeah, I want to write comics for the rest of my life. I want to write comics for the rest of my life.
This next page that we're about to go to.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me
That
let me
I
move
think it is.
forward. Let's go and
Yeah.
see.
I
Oh,
just
okay.
thought, I just thought Penny's expression, her big eyes, it, you, the, I mean, the lighting in terms of it looks like there's something happening in the center. Those lines coming through, like it looks like there's a breeze blowing the clothes that are hanging up on the one rack. Like it just looks like there is something magical happening.
I have a question for you because this is a splash page. Splash pages are my favorite things to talk about. We do them for many, many reasons. Some people for cool art, but some people to announce that Godzilla is about to come out. One of the ones I saw for a splash page was Godzilla coming up, but not him appearing yet. This feels like the Godzilla coming up moment for me. What makes you decide that this deserved a full page?
I I think it was like this, like in the script. I think it was a full. There were a couple of things in the script that weren't a splash page,
Hmm.
and then with Amber either saying like, "Oh, I think this would be better as a full page," and I'm like, "Oh, let's see what it looks like," or the editors, one of the editors, either Stephanie or later on Teddy, saying, "Hey, this book, could use some more like splash pages. Like, could we take something and do this?" Because sometimes it's an editor decision, like, let's let Amber show off and do a full page. Let's do something like this. Let's break something up. And sometimes, you know, is the first graphic novel I've ever written, so I'm still learning the ropes in terms of those things. I think this was a splash page from the script from the very beginning, because I didn't want the appearance of Yeti to be like the splash page. I wanted the
Okay.
moment right before,
Okay.
and I
No,
thought it would
that's
be
what I
a
was curious about.
great
Yeah.
opportunity to have this big moment before, like the moment you take a deep breath, like right before you let it out, right before you jump. I wanted to kind of to see if we could capture that on a page. And Amber sent me this, and I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Perfect answer. Perfect answer. Because that was where I was like, well, why not the Yeti? Why this? Fantastic. So let's see. I believe this is our last page, actually, is the
Yeah, this is it.
appearance of the Yeti.
Right.
Tell me, what did you, because this is your moment. This is what the whole book is about.
Yep.
This is how you're introducing the character. What did you want to immediately staple in and just say, this is her? This is, I believe the Yeti is a girl.
I, no, it's a boy. Well,
Oh my gosh, I was wrong.
yeah, he says he's a he. Um, but the first thing I wanted, I like that moment of, something magical has maybe just happened. We don't know what it is yet. That idea of Lucy, first going through the wardrobe and just starting to come out before she meets Mr. Tumnus, so
Hmm.
I like the idea of Penny coming out saying, "Mom, Dad, like something just happened. What was it?" And I just wanted, and I told Amber, like, Amber did the design for Yeti. It was all her. And I just said, there's Yeti, Yeti's just big and friendly and saying hello. I just wanted it to scream like super friendly. This Yeti is not scary. This Yeti is friendly. And I thought he's just there and he's just saying hello. And then Penny is shocked and says Yeti, because and he says, yeah, that's me, and who are you? And she introduces herself and asks if he's there to help, because the last thing she said before the magic was, "This has to be a way for my parents to stop arguing."
Hmm.
Yeti doesn't know anything about things. Yeah, I can try. And he says, but first, do you want to play? So we see that this is going to be about fun and imagination first. And then Amber did a fantastic job of then showing that page uh, with the two penny on it, but Yeti's missing, and kind of that little pink line of magic. And yeah, that's the end of the first section.
Perfect. And you've laid out all these little key pieces, and you talked about Perry and how she was going to draw it, and a lot of, because it's a slice of life, a lot of this had to have those interactions with the characters. That's the core part of these kinds of books. Um, I enjoyed it. I can't wait to read the next parts and see what, because I feel like it might not all be good that happens. Um, but I'm excited to see what ends up happening next. Um,
Well, I would love to know once you get through all of it, what you think. Good, bad, uh, indifferent. Hopefully, at least not indifferent. Even if you don't like it, I would. I think is better than just being indifferent to it. But yeah, I'd like to know. We spent, this is my Penny, the real Penny, and I had a seed of an idea to tell a story with the Yeti 4 years ago, and then I think I first pitched this to Mad Cave, Papercutz in early 2024. So we've been working on this book for 2 years, and now we're 7 weeks away from it being out. So
that's insane.
I'm excited for folks to read it. I hope kids like it. I hope parents like it. I hope they find somebody in the book to connect to. I hope it makes them feel something. I hope, if anything, people take away the friendship between Penny and Yeti. I think out of all the stuff in the book, I kind of put a friendship between Penny and Yeti that I hope, people have. Like, their friendship is probably more so than what happens with the family or between Perry and Penny. Penny and Yeti's friendship is one based on kindness and empathy. And I just think, you can't ask for much more than that.
I will read this. I can't wait to share with you my thoughts. One final question for you, because again, I've got to watch you do these things and kind of learn and grow as a creator and to make those steps that you need to make. For people starting out, what are the best resources you think that they should start with?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for artists, I don't know because I'm not an artist, but for writers, um, I mean, read a lot. That's I think the number one thing. And I mean, Alan Moore says it better than me, but there's a great clip of Alan Moore saying, like, read good books, read great books, read bad ones too, because the bad ones can teach you just as much as the good ones. Like
Hmm.
on my podcast, when I interview people, I try to be very positive, and generally I am. I like a lot of stuff. Comics are a lot of work. Any creative endeavor is a lot of work. I did theater in high school and college and even after college, and theater's a lot of work. I've seen some fantastic plays. I've seen some ones that are not great, but sometimes just as much work goes into the bad ones as the good ones. It's not the effort. Like sometimes things just don't come together. But you can learn something from the bad ones or the ones that are just okay. And sometimes the lesson is I could do that. Like I think I could tell a story, and I think I have something to say, or I think I have something that's really cool, or I have a take on an idea. So
Yeah,
read a lot. You can learn a lot
absolutely.
about structure. Um, when you're perusing your local comic book shop, um, look for trade paperbacks that have back matter with scripts in them. One of the biggest things I found was I would pull out some of my comic books that had other writers' scripts in them as
Hmm.
like back matter, and I'd read it and I'd go back and look at it and I'd say, oh, what changed? What did the artist do? How did they format it? Like, what kind of stuff are they putting in here to convey the action? Well, I think in terms of books, like other books out there, like some of the ones I already mentioned, like read Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics, read Bendis's book, read Stephen King's On Writing. There's great resources out there. Other things to do is find your community, whether or not
Yeah.
it's whether or not it's social media, whether or not it's a Discord, like whatever it might, whether or not it's just a couple of people hanging out at your local comic shop or your local coffee shop or whatever it might be. Just find some folks that have a similar, interest to you, and that interest doesn't have to be too similar. It can just be comic books. It can just be nerd stuff, like whatever it might be. And other than that, write, get people to read it. That's the toughest thing once you write, is to get somebody to read your stuff and to give you feedback on it. Writing is only half the battle. The other half is getting people to read what you wrote.
After that's thick skin, because the feedback is not always the best.
I mean, it's that part of it can be tough. You have to know going in to any creative endeavor, you are going to get rejected. Somebody's going to tell you no. Somebody is going to tell you that your stuff is crap. Sometimes they're going to tell you it in a not nice way. Like, not everybody is going to be friendly, and not everyone's going to be, constructive about it. Look, but here's the thing. It's not a reflection on you, right? Other people's opinion of you is none of your business. And what they tell you about you is not a reflection on you. And also, if people really aren't out there also trying to do it and have a lot of crappy opinions about other things, well, then don't listen to what they say about your writing. If you're going to actually get constructive criticism, get it from somebody that, knows what they're talking about. And you can find those people on Discord who are helpful in terms of structure, or in terms of story idea, or in terms of, hey, you have 2 actions in this panel. You can't do that in a comic. Like, we have to break it up. That's a David Andrew quote. I know it is, because I've done that. If it's a movie and you're thinking of it as like a movie, if you're seeing it in your head and that's what you're writing, hit pause. Hit pause on the thing at the height of whatever it is, and then write down what you see paused, and then hit play, get to the next moment, hit pause, and then write down what it is you see. It's only one action at a time. Yeah, but you're going to get no's. You're going to get rejected. But nobody can tell the story that you are telling, because nobody is you. Nobody has your background. Nobody has your experiences. Nobody has your influences. Maybe you share some of them, but not all of them.
You get them, Jimmy. You tell them.
Certainly nobody shares your experiences, and there's a story out there that only you can tell. So tell it. And do the best job you can.
Yes, sir. Mr. Jimmy Gaspero. There it is. Mr. Jim Gaspero, where can people find you? Where can people find Penny and the Yeti?
Yeah, you can find me I'm on Blue Sky at Jimmy Gaspero, my full name. You can find me there. Also, go to the Comic Book Yeti website. The podcast is the Cryptid Creator Corner. So you can, wherever you listen to a podcast, you can find the Cryptid Creator Corner. There's over 400 episodes for you to listen to. And you can get Penny and the Yeti. Final order cutoff is March 30th. For anyone that doesn't know, final order cutoff is the deadline by which comic book shops have to get their orders into the publishers. So FOC, final order cutoff, is March 30th. The book will be out April 21st. You can get the book wherever you get your books or graphic novels. You can get it right from Papercutz. You can get it from Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart. But I always think the best way is to go to your local comic book shop and let them know before March 30th that you would like a copy. And then on April 21st or 22nd, it'll be in your bin or waiting for you at your local shop.
There we go. Well, thank you so much, and you have a wonderful night. I really appreciate you being on, by the way.
No, thank you. This was great. I went through all of this, and now folks that they got a taste of the first section, but there's 4 more after this, so plenty of stories still.
Oh my gosh, there's going to be a ton. You have a good night, buddy.
Bait for the bait throw. Trash for the trash throw. Welcome to my emotional Thunderdome. I am creative, nothing else.